Hey guys, I'm Kay, and this is my first video on the channel. I'm kinda sick, so excuse my voice. On this channel, I'll be reading some Reddit stories while you watch me and my friend evolve our Minecraft world. As I said, this is my first video, so any tips or feedback would be greatly appreciated. And lastly, I hope you enjoy me reading some stories. So let's get on to the first story. The title is Am I the A-hole for arguing with my friend at a birthday party after she intentionally separated me from my boyfriend? I, 21F, have been dating my boyfriend, 22M, for almost 2 years. We're solid, we live together, and usually attend events as a couple. I've never had any serious issues with my friend, 21F, who I've known since high school. My friend threw herself a big 21st birthday party at a rented venue. She invited around 30 people, and I responded yes for both me and my boyfriend weeks in advance. When we arrived, there were assigned tables. I was seated at a table with my friend and her close friends, while my boyfriend was placed at a completely different table across the room with people he didn't know. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. I pulled my friend aside and asked her about it, and she told me it was intentional. She said she didn't want couples attached at the hip and wanted people to branch out. That sounded fine until I looked around and realized that every other couple, including people who had been dating for only a few months, was seated together. When I pointed this out, she admitted she thought my boyfriend would kill the vibe and said I'd be more fun without him around. For context, he is quiet but extremely polite and has never caused any problems at any event. My boyfriend was clearly uncomfortable once he realized everyone else was seated with their partners except him. He tried to brush it off, but I could tell he was embarrassed and confused. I told my friend that deliberately separating us while seating everyone else with their partners was hurtful and unnecessary, along with her comments about him not being fun. She rolled her eyes and told me it was her birthday and I was being dramatic. At that point, I decided not to make a scene so we stick around for the party, but I was kinda more quiet for the rest of the night than usual. Since then, my friend has been blowing up my phone saying I ruined her birthday, embarrassed her, and made everything about my relationship. Some mutual friends agree with her and say I should have just stayed quiet for the sake of the party, while others think what she did was mean and intentional. I don't really think I caused that much of a scene, but it is her birthday after all, so I feel bad if other people noticed. I genuinely didn't want to cause drama, but I also didn't want to ignore the issue and leave my boyfriend feeling uncomfortable. Am I the a-hole? Personally, I don't think you're the a-hole, since you just said that it wasn't really that nice, and the thing she said about your boyfriend would kill the vibe and you'd have more fun if he wasn't there was extremely rude and unnecessary. You didn't even cause a scene at the event, so I don't understand how you ruined her party and embarrassed her. While I do see some of the points when she said the boyfriend would kill the vibe because he is more shy and introverted, I can also see myself in this situation because I'm also a bit introverted. But if I was going to an event, I would try to speak more and be more engaging with other people at the event instead of just being to myself. I feel like the friend could also maybe have gone about this in a different way, like maybe speaking to Op before the party so she could say to her boyfriend that he should maybe get out more or speak to more people and branch out. As she said, you're a really good girlfriend for not leaving your boyfriend feeling left out or uncomfortable and saying your opinion to your friend for doing something that is wrong. And that's really my conclusion of the story. So let's move on to the next one. FYI, if you're watching the Minecraft gameplay, I don't really know what I'm building. I think I have a vision. So, on to the next story, which is a confession, and the title is Yes, Marie, I hid your freaking lunchbox, and I don't regret it. When I was in primary 6, Scottish equivalent of year 5 or 4th grade, I had a particularly perfidious school bully. He was rude and unkind and loved to torment me in many ways that, although were not all that creative, still made me feel like 10-year-old garbage. I was a quiet kid back then, still am, in fact, all the way in uni, and it might not feel like serious stuff right now, but back then this kid was ruining my dresses, teasing me with stationery that I needed to use, teaming up on me with his pals, and even mocking my food intolerances. He relished in the fact that everybody in class, except for me, was able to eat their Tunnocks tea cakes. Nom nom nom, it's so good, he says. Guess that's what you get for being the smart kid with like half a friend, right? But you see, one thing about school bullies is that they're usually not all that bright themselves. And this one, specifically, did not do his research. Because let's be honest, they're too cocky to be strategic. I'll just put it this way. He messed with the wrong girl. I am innately petty and unlike him, was too careful to subjugate him in secret. A quiet retaliation. For context, I feel like I should describe the layout of this school because it plays an important role in this retribution. Essentially, my elementary school was so overpopulated that 7 extra classrooms had to be built in a pavilion extension right beside the main body building. I should add that 6 of these classrooms were regular sized, while the 7th was a double room, typically used for gatherings and the like. Furthermore, the student overpopulation meant that not everyone was able to fit in the hall for lunch. So people from our year were sent to eat in this 7th room. It was functional in the way that any extra room would be. It wasn't used very often, so people didn't really rifle through it, and there were tons of cabinets filled with papers and board games and every other quintessential elementary school paraphernalia you could hope for. So, to return to the story. One fine lunchtime, I was sitting at a table in the spare room, munching on whatever delicacies I had brought from home, when this boy, so dastardly and mean, kicked my chair on his way out. Now, I don't know what snapped in me that day, but ladies and gentlemen, it was the final straw. That was it. I was going to get revenge. So I let the boy leave. I let him dump his lunchbox, which he carried every day, into the trolley we left him in every day, thinking he'd gotten away with it, just like every other day. But when the students had filtered out the room, and anger had shackled itself to my veins, I knew it was time. So I extracted his lunchbox from the trolley of many lunchboxes, and then, what did I do? I hid it in one of the many shelves surrounding the vast room, stuffing it behind board games and who knows what else, making sure that Murray would not be able to find it. He would be seething and he would be hopeless, but he was definitely not going to be a boy with a lunchbox. Sure, it's not a heinous crime of any sort, but just look at it from the perspective of a 9/10-year-old. I felt empowered. That day, Murray searched for his lunchbox. People looked and they looked, but the blasted thing was simply nowhere to be seen. And sure, it showed up at some point months down the line, but how would they have known it was me? And how could anyone have questioned the innocent little white kid who had never done any wrong in her life? Yeah, this is a really light-hearted story of a girl that wanted to take revenge on her bully, and personally, I don't think she did anything wrong, and it didn't really hurt anyone. It was just a light-hearted petty war, I think, but this still doesn't seem like someone had made it. It does sound like ChatGPT a little bit because of all of the big words that were used, like perfidious and retribution, and it doesn't really seem like the style of how Reddit stories are usually written in. Or maybe I'm just tripping, but to me it doesn't seem like a human made it. Well, on to the next story, which is Am I the A-hole? And the title is Am I the A-hole for telling my wife not to use our expensive chef's knife to cut plastic? I do the majority of the work in the kitchen, whether that's the cooking or cleaning, probably 95% or more. 2 years ago, my wife bought me a $110 Japanese chef's knife for Christmas. The first expensive knife I have ever owned. I have been babying it as much as possible, washing it by hand immediately after use instead of throwing it in the dishwasher. My wife, however, treats it like a $5 Walmart knife on the rare occasion she cooks. She leaves it unwashed on the counter even after cutting lemons. Acid is especially bad for these knives, which pit and rust easily. She also uses it to cut through plastic packaging. I've asked her to be nicer a number of times, makes no impact. Today she was making a breakfast and I found her slicing through a plastic cheese wrapping. I asked her again to please not do this because it dulls the knife and she knows it. She said okay. A minute later, she needs to open a sausage package. I said, "You're going to use the expensive knife again, aren't you?" She turns to me and says, "What should I use to open this then?" I said, "There are supposed to be scissors in the kitchen. Where are they? Are the scissors going to be clean enough to cut? Use one of the other cheap knives then." There's 2 of them behind her in the cabinet and I'm sure she knows it. This just comes off to me as a weaponized incompetence. So I say, "I know you want to use the good knife. Just do it." "No, I just want to know what you want me to use." And then she cuts the sausage packing with a good knife. I said, "You know, this is like if I took one of your expensive dresses and mopped the floor with it." And when you caught me, I said, "What else am I supposed to use?" use. This was met with, "I don't know why you're going on about this. Our adult kid witnessed this and says she gave you the knife. She can use it however she wants." I'm sorry, but how rude. What? So, I'm a petty a-hole for wanting people to treat my gift nicely, for my own copious use of it in the kitchen to make them all food. I am now hiding it in a cabinet and will now continue to do so after each time I use it. I'm sure I'm an a-hole for that too. Wow, this story, it really surprises me. It really is weaponized incompetence. The husband is telling the wife, don't use it because it's expensive. Even though she bought it, she doesn't have the right to control another person's gift. She gave the knife for a reason and he wants to take care of it. Is that so bad? If a knife costs $110, I would also use it carefully and not to ruin it. Just ruining it. No, but seriously. And the adult child that said the mom bought it, she can use it however she wants, is really, what, conceited? I think that's the right word, because if someone gives a gift, you should be able to use it however you want. It's your belonging, if you will, and it's just, I can't believe he got gaslit is the right word, but gaslit into thinking that he's the a-hole and that he's petty for wanting to treat his gift like it's something important when it is something important. She even has scissors to cut things with, but they're not clean enough to cut them with. Why do you need clean scissors to cut sausage packaging? I don't know. But still, you have so many other options. She just wants to use the expensive knife because what? She wants to feel rich and bougie? No, that isn't right. And it's not even hers because she gave it as a gift. Wow, this AmItheA whole post really, it pissed me off. Just reading it to you, it really just pissed me off. I was reading the comments too, and they all agree that the op is not the a-hole. That's the major consensus of it, that he's not the a-hole. And the kid is just plain wrong because it's a gift, doesn't matter who bought it. So yeah, right now in the Minecraft gameplay, I'm just trying to make a gateway to enter my house. Or like, it's a door, I think. And this is what I envision me going into when I'm going to my house, basically. Enough about that. Let's go on to the next story. Next story is a confession, and the title is Don't Judge Me. I changed. I was young when I did this. I'm not looking for sympathy or excuses, just honesty. When I was a teenager, 17F, I was put in an adult situation way too early. I was helping take care of my grandmother, feeding her, bathing her for 2 months. I couldn't hang out. I was drinking and doing drugs. And during that time, I made a serious mistake involving money that was not mine. At the time, I was hanging around my mother, was stealing from her too for the longest when I was young. Around 10-ish, I started picking up the bad behavior. 3,000 I took away from her. I knew it was wrong and I deeply regret it. Things happen for a reason, I believe. I'm sure she was more peaceful without any money because she used to always feel like, what was she doing with it? Before I did this act, she was talking about sharing her bank account with me so I'd be her overseer. What makes it harder is that my grandmother forgave me before she passed. I told her what I did. She cared more about me than the money. And I still struggle to accept that forgiveness because of my own guilt. Because she didn't get a proper burial. Since then, I've tried to live differently. I'm in school, working, and actively trying to be a better person than I was in that season of my life. I don't justify what I did, but I also know I'm not the same scared, immature person anymore. I think part of growing up is realizing you're capable of doing wrong and then choosing not to stay that person. I'm learning how to forgive myself and breaking patterns I grew up around. This is something I carry quiet, and I'm sharing it here to let it go instead of letting it define me. That was the first part of this confession. There is a part 2 which is longer than this one. And this is the start. Part 2. 19F. I was kicked out tonight and I'm finally seeing the pattern. It's currently 3 a.m. and I'm writing this because everything just collapsed at once. I'm 19, my mom kicked me out unexpectedly tonight. There was no warning, just like that. I no longer have a place to stay. Right now I'm staying with someone I don't even know if I truly love. I don't want to lie to myself. Part of why I'm here is because I needed somewhere safe to sleep. That reality hurts to admit. A big part of this situation revolves around the car. I don't have my license yet. I've been working a full-time job while going to school, practicing when I could, and I did the driving test about 2 months ago but failed. The plan was always that I do take it. My mom and I made a deal. I gave her 2,500 for the car so I could save money, and the agreement was that the car would be mine next month. Because of that, I kept making payments, even when friends warned me to stop. I didn't listen because I wanted to believe in my parents. During this time, I was still being treated like a child. being told to Uber to work, sometimes allowed to drive, sometimes not. There were moments where she wasn't honest about where she was, even though I had her location. The control never stopped. A few days ago, I was away for 4 days. When I came back, nothing seemed wrong. I even saw her 2 days ago to pick up a package. She never mentioned kicking me out. Then tonight, it happened anyway. College starts in 3 days. I now have no car, no home, and I'm scrambling to figure out how to keep my job and stay in school. What hurts the most is realizing that this isn't about money or a car. It's about power and about my past being used against me. I made a serious mistake when I was younger, and I carried that guilt every day since. I've worked, enrolled in school, and tried to do better, but it's never enough to stop it from being thrown back in my face. I know family isn't supposed to work like this. Love isn't supposed to be conditional or used as leverage. Tonight hurts, but for the first time, I'm starting to see clearly that holding onto this guilt has kept me trapped. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't know exactly what comes next, but I don't want to keep repeating this pattern. Good for you, Op. I understand you feel guilty for doing something wrong in the past, but I also feel like the time you feel guilty is how much you want to repent, and people can't use that against you. She holds a grudge on you because I assume she knows what you did when you were younger, and that's not right because you feel guilty and you regret the choice you made. And to add on to that, your grandmother, she didn't get a proper burial, and you also feel guilt for that because you feel like it's your fault when it's not really your fault. And right now you want to break the pattern and want to break out of this toxic relationship with your mother, and I understand that. You're totally right in that. Nothing should keep holding you down because of something that happened 2 years ago, and you have felt guilty all that time. You're really brave for saying this, even though it may seem like being against your mother is wrong because she's your mother. But that doesn't excuse her behavior when she treats you like this. She shouldn't have a grudge against you because something you did when you were younger, dumber, and didn't know the consequences of your actions. And if you're watching this and you're going through a similar situation, just know that things get better and there is light at the end of the tunnel, even though it doesn't seem like it. You may feel bad for a day, a month, even years, but life gets better. You just need to give it some time and you'll see the light of life. So that was the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe you're sleeping right now, but if you aren't, I hope you can give me some feedback because this is my first video. I'm trying to make it more enjoyable for you guys, and I hope you can consider subscribing or liking the video if you liked it. So I know you liked it, probably, maybe. But seriously, I appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video, and maybe you'll watch one of my later videos.